Welcome back to the Reset, episode 23 with me, Sean Tucker. I am your host. What you focus on is what you get. What you focus on is what you hit. I once heard this story from my good friend, Richard. And see, Richard, he told this story and he's one very, very humble man who really is just a kind, humble man and tends to give so much of his heart away. But I remember him telling this story about when he went for his motorcycle license and the person who was taking the test, who was making sure that he passed, right, or failed, depending on how he went, was watching him closely. And Richard actually failed the test. He failed getting his motorcycle license because he kept on hitting the cones. He kept on hitting what was in his way. And very smart, but also somewhat maybe even unethical by the tester was after Richard had failed, he said, I'll give you another shot, but this time I don't want you to look at missing the things that are in your way. I want you to actually focus on going around them. So look not directly at them, but look between them. And so he did. Richard took his motorcycle license and he passed because he was no longer looking at the problem itself, which was himself hitting what was in front of his way, but looking at between the two cones. So that space between the two cones is where he could easily maneuver and get through where he was going. And it's so interesting because most people, and myself included, will tend to focus on things either that we don't have or that maybe we do have, but it's coming from a place of this is the only thing that we have. So it's coming from a place of like scarcity or having not enough. And whatever you focus on grows. So if you spend a lot of time thinking about, well, I've never been able to lose weight, then it makes it really hard to win the game of weight loss. Because if you're focused on those failures, the times that you have not been successful, or maybe you have been successful but weren't able to sustain that loss that you made, or when it comes to money, you know, you're totally risk averse, so you play the game of keeping safe and saving all your money, right? There's no right or wrong way. But the thing is, you have to make a choice that's based on what you want to do, not what you don't want to do. So if you want to make lots of money, or if you want to create a transformation that is just unreal, where you've lost all this weight, you've built all this muscle, you're looking fantastic, well, you have to lose some things along the way. And what I mean by that is the parts of you that you don't want, you have to let go of. Because if you're focusing on the parts of you that you don't want, AKA the parts that you're comfortable with, right? The parts that are a little bit scared, the parts that maybe don't believe that you have it in you to actually succeed, then what happens is those neuroses or those thoughts of not being able to finish, not being able to win or do well, end up taking control. It's that Hintergedanke, which is a term that the Germans use, and I took this or stole this from Alan Watts. It's called a Hintergedanke, which is a thought that lives way, 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 way back in your mind that you don't really want to see as true, that nobody else would know about you. And it's one of those things that can cause a lot of negative thought spirals, which actually, if you think about it, a lot of those negative spirals of thought, if you don't interrupt them, become your life. If you don't transform them in some way, shape, or form, they actually become part of your reality. And you can test this the next time you go for a drive down the street or whatever it is, or maybe going to the shops. Let's just say you're going to a parking lot, and it's normally a pretty busy parking lot, and it's the art of manifestation, but it's also the science. Let's say you want to find a park that's close to where you want to go, right? And just play with this. Just play a little game with it. Go for a little drive, go down to the shops or the car park where you normally go, and just think, okay, I want a park that's close to where I want to go, but I'm not expecting it to happen. It would be nice for it to happen. And put those thoughts, that energy out there and let it go. Watch what happens. Maybe you'll go there and someone pulls out and someone else comes and takes the parking lot, right? That's okay. It's really just an experiment. It's a test. But the reason why I bring this into this conversation today is because what you focus on grows. What you focus on is what you hit. So if you're unknowingly creating a reality that you don't want, or knowingly creating a reality that you don't want, you have the power, and you are the only one who has the power to change it. So really get clear on the things that you do want in your life. And don't let the shame or the guilt mask it so you can't. Give yourself permission to really reach into your soul, into the deepest layer of your being, and ask, what is it that I really want? What do you want in your life? How is it do you want to be? Because how you are is the magnet of your life. If you are wonderful in yourself, life becomes wonderful. You're not controlled by the outside circumstances or situations. But have a little bit of a play around with this idea of manifestation. Test it in your own life to see whether it's true or if it's not true. Because I know in my life, the more I play around with it, the more fun I have with it, the more easy it is to create realities that I actually want to be in, because I become a lot more specific around the things that I want. And if you start getting things in your life that you want, rather than the things that you don't want, then you start creating a life that you actually enjoy living. And if you're living that life, how you are should be a pretty high expression of who you are. Because those things, the things that make up who you are, they're not really that important, right? The most important aspect, the one that you feel, the one that you kind of express, is how you are. And if you're energized, if you're really upbeat, you're positive, you're optimistic, right? That energy is infectious. And on the other side of that, the depressive, sad, grief energy is also very infectious. The guilt, the shame, all of those negative emotions, they're also very infectious, right? But it's coming from a place of being unconscious. That's the difference. So you first have to make it conscious. You have to really know what it is you want or what you don't want. And the experience is being able to see both truths at the same time. Because then you become conscious of what it is that's, I suppose, controlling your reality. And I know that this episode is pretty big one for those who are still following I commend you. I congratulate you, because these conversations that I have, it's almost like I'm speaking to myself. I'm speaking to myself and really reaching into myself and finding out what it is that I really want in my life. And like I said, the more specific, the more focused you become and one-pointed you become in that direction of what you want, the easier it is to align in that direction. The easier it is to start getting and asking for the support around you to help you in that direction. So if you found value in today's episode, I'd love for you to just recommend it to one person. And just a reminder that every Sunday, if you live here in Melbourne, especially in the Southeast, I run a free Fitness for Dads group. Runs from 6 a.m. We work out for 45 minutes. And then we go down to Mackie Road Cafe in Mulgrave and we chat for 20, 30 minutes over coffee. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, come along, join our WhatsApp group, and let's make it happen. Thanks for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you in tomorrow's episode.